And I'm joined by Caroline Kenyon. How you doing, Caroline, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Long time no see. Been a little while.
I know.
Actually, I think last time we saw each other face to face anyway would have been when you performed at Just Push Play. So
Yes.
a little while ago now.
Yeah.
Obviously we'll get to the singles in a minute because they're brilliant. But obviously since then, since you come back with these two new singles, you have dropped the Bastette moniker. What was the reasoning behind dropping that? Did you just feel like it come to a conclusion, or?
Um, yeah, I think Bastette, when I started Bastette, I was 22, 23, and I felt like I needed a stage name
Hmm.
because I always thought that Caroline was pretty boring. And also just having a sort of a character you can step into on stage.
Yeah.
But it all got a bit confused along the way. People wanted a band, so it was sort of made to seem like more of a band than really it was.
Yeah.
And I ummed and ahed about it because, I'd spent 5 years like building this Bastette and fierce goddess and all that kind of thing, and I'd put a lot of time and effort into it, and I was like, why should I have to sort of get rid of it?
Hmm.
But at the same time, I actually made the decision quite quick. Within the space of probably about a week, I'd gone, hang on a minute, if I'm gonna go back out there, I just need to be myself. I just need to be authentically me, and stop trying to hide behind this character that I'd created, because the reality of the situation is that that was me anyway.
Yeah.
I just felt like I needed Bastette,
Hmm.
um, whereas I don't need her in the same way anymore,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, is that purely from a confidence point of view, do you think? Because obviously when anyone's up on stage, they're always, a maybe slightly exaggerated version of themselves. Unless you're not talking about an Alice Cooper scenario here, but
Yeah,
you know,
um, I think I'm just more comfortable within myself.
yeah.
So, like, it was always me anyway, and I am an exaggerated version of myself on stage.
Yeah.
But I suppose younger me would have gone, oh well, you're acting a certain way, or you're wearing these sexy outfits or whatever, and it just gave me confidence that I almost would say to myself at points, right, well, you're not Caroline now, you're Bastette.
Yeah.
You've just stepped into
You could put that
the,
on, say one of the
yeah, but it was always me anyway, and I don't need that um sort of emotion, if you want to call it an emotional
yeah.
cue. I don't need that anymore to be able to do it. I'm quite comfortable and confident within myself. And I think also that this sounds slightly changed.
Mhm.
And I was just like, are people going to get confused by that? There's a lot of people who, wanted this rock band, and the scene's very much about bands, isn't it? And Bastette never worked like a band.
No.
It was me and musicians that I'd pull in and out. So I just thought I needed it to be clear as well. You can't misconstrue my name, can you? You
Well, no,
can't,
your title on it.
Caroline Kenyon,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with the decision.
I mean, from your own personal posts that you put up between, going away for a little bit and coming back, um, you don't have to answer anything you don't want to, but I feel like I got the impression that you fell out of love with music a little bit.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
fair to say?
yeah. The past few years, I've been on a bit of a spiral downwards, shall we say?
Hmm.
So, and I don't know if it's my age as well. I think a lot of people get to the late 20s and you go, what the fuck am I doing? And you reevaluate certain things within your life, and you start to go, right, well, what do I want out of life?
Yeah.
What do I actually want? And yeah, but I think music for me was always an escape, and it just became this pressure and this beast that I couldn't control. Um, I wouldn't say that I'm a control freak, but I always thought that I had, I could sort of, it was only an obstacle. The way that I always viewed
Yeah.
problems was, it's an obstacle. You get over the problem. You find a way forward. If you can't find a way forward, you adapt.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it just got to the point where I felt like I was just running on a treadmill whilst on fire.
Yeah.
That was my brain. And I was so out of, everything was out of control. And so in some respects, I didn't choose to stop. I had to stop.
Yeah.
I had to stop. Otherwise, I mean, I already was going down, but it would have been worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I just, sometimes you need time away. You can't. Miley Cyrus was, she just came out with something where, in an interview, where she was like, I can't write when I'm on stage, when I'm performing, I don't write. Because you are, it's the performer and the audience, and you have to have this sort of ego on stage, that and there's no balance in those sort of relationships that you've got between the fan and the performer. And it really resonated with me, because I was not writing. So for like 2 years, I probably wrote 3 songs.
Oh, wow.
And like, well, I probably wrote more than that, but I thought they were rubbish. So, they never see the light of day. But for me, that was like, why can't I write? I've always, enjoyed writing and written for, to get emotions out, or just to make sense of things. And I wasn't writing at all. And there was no sort of clarity within what I wanted to create. So when I went back into the studio, initially, there was nothing clear. It was just start again, just go back in and just find what that thing was that made you enjoy music in the first place.
Did you have like any idea in terms of the stylistically where you were going to go, or was it literally going in and just seeing what happened while you were there?
Yeah, initially the first couple of songs I was experimenting, like really experimenting. Like, I've got hip hop beats and stuff, and I just wanted to get back to the roots of music, and not be like, it needs to sound like this, or it needs to fit this market, or I need to do this because that's what people want.
Yeah, find out what it was you really wanted to do by playing.
Yeah. And when I sort of stopped doing music, I was quite down. I was depressed, basically. But the only thing that I could do music wise was practice guitar. And I've never practiced the guitar. I'm a pianist, I've played the piano since I was 7, and I can play the guitar, but I can't play the guitar. I think there's a difference. And I just, like, I spoke to a few different people, and I just thought, if I do nothing else, because I couldn't write at this point, I wasn't writing. Just practice the guitar, just get better. Because I think sometimes as well, when you're stuck, you're not moving forward with anything. You're not getting better or progressing or challenging yourself. And I suppose that's where I was at musically. So I started off just hours and hours and hours on the guitar. And it didn't even need to be anything specific. It was just understand the instrument.
Yeah, get
You
back.
know what I mean? Yeah.
Try and expand your tool set, sort of thing.
Yeah. because piano and guitar are very different.
Yeah.
And they're not even set up the same way. So as much as I understand theory and how to put everything together, I'd be looking at it, I'm like, that doesn't make sense because it's not set out. The piano's so linear.
Yeah.
And I even took a few guitar lessons, and I was like, right, explain this to me, and things wouldn't click, and then I'd go, oh, hang on a minute, it's like down 3 semitones. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
So it and actually learning an instrument as a musician or somebody who enjoys music, it's fun, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, there's grueling parts of it.
Oh, there's always grueling bits.
There's always grueling bits, but it's fun. And you sort of you step back and you go, why did I not do this before? Or why did I not? Why have I stopped doing this at points?
And for me, I mean, anytime I found, like, I've been playing, I played bass all my life and stuff, but anytime I found a new tuning or a new effects pedal to play with or something, or whatever it might be, that always fed into writing. That was always like, oh, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
What can I do with this new toy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you look at like learning an instrument, a lot of the way that you write is again from learning new songs or messing around with new equipment and gaining a new skill set. And that, I suppose, I wasn't doing that. I was just, how do I move forward and how do I get the music out there? And eventually, the music dried up because I wasn't writing. So there's nothing new. There's nothing new. There's nothing to show people, is there?
No, very true. Very true. But you talk about, obviously coming initially from a piano background, obviously Monster in the Mirror, very piano driven. Is that where did that come in terms of writing again thing?
So that wasn't the first, that was one of the earlier songs that I had gone into the studio with. Maybe that was the fourth song that I'd gone in with. But I actually initially wrote that on the guitar.
Okay.
Because a lot of the time I'll write on the guitar. I just find it easier. And then I was messing around with arrangements, and so I'm opening Logic on the computer, and I'm thinking, okay, how do I want to hear this? And I actually rearranged it like maybe 3 times before I got to, right, it's not working like that, so how do I do it a different way? And that song, I would say, is it's not specific to any genre. I just, if you want to call it, Carolined it. I just did what I could hear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than me going, where's it going to fit? And I think that's been the journey musically. Me just going, initially I went, what do I want to hear? What's in my head? Don't think about who's going to like it or what it's for. What do I like the sounds of, experimenting wise. And as I sort of move forward with the songs, they'll become slightly more cohesive.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a great haunting quality about it in that piano driven play. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool, And I think, like you say, when you're not focused on, to use your own term, trying to, where does it fit? Where is it? Where can I put this? And you are just playing from the heart and playing with what sounds right, what direction, stylistically, it doesn't matter. It's what you're producing that matters.
Yeah.
I think when you're writing in that way, your own sound comes through a lot more. I mean, like I would say, like this and Gasoline compared to the stuff that you put out under the Bastette moniker. As much as I enjoyed it, this feels more genuine. It feels more honest. It doesn't feel like, not that I would say you were falsifying anything with Bastette, but I think any artist, when they're part of, for want of a better term, a scene, and certain things are happening, I think some people, I think it's natural that you try and steer things maybe in a slight different direction, because that's, like you said, that was what people were seemingly wanting from you. Whereas this, you're writing it for yourself again. You're writing it for seeing who you are as a writer and as a songwriter and everything else. And it just seems, I mean, like Gasoline has almost got a country feel about it, especially on the vocal delivery, and I really like that. It's got this rich quality about it, which is really cool. And it just sounds like I'm really excited to hear what's coming from Lee next, mate. To be honest, I really am, because this seems so. I hate to use the term pure because it sounds cheesy, but it just, you can tell you've wrote it with no one else in mind but you. You've
Yeah.
and that always sings louder than trying to perform. You know, you go see someone, and I love my rock and roll peacocks as much as anyone. You know what I mean? I'm a huge Aerosmith fan.
Mm.
Mr. Tyler is the ultimate
Yeah.
peacock. But equally, you go see someone like J Buchanan or Rival Sons, and you think he would perform that way, whether he was up in front of 4 people and a dog or 20,000 people. You know, it's just something
Yeah.
you kind of witness. And that's how I kind of got the thingy with it. Like Bastette, I watched you perform. This, I was witnessing you playing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of difference about it.
Yeah. Well, I think with Basta, I went heavier
Hmm.
than, and it's not that I don't like heavy music, because I
Yeah.
do, but I think naturally I'm probably not as heavy as that. My voice is not, I've not got like a big belting waily voice.
Hmm.
My voice is quite deep and rich.
Yes, sir.
And I have leaned into that with some of these songs that are going to come out. So you're going to hear a different sort of quality to my voice. And I'm just not trying to copy anyone anymore.
Right.
You know, when I first started performing, when I was, you know, early teens, I wanted to be Cher. So I copied Cher. And that is, when I say copy, I mean I would probably like analyze the way that she would perform, and I'd be, you know, wanting to wear the same outfits and all that kind of thing. And then it was Lizzie Hale, and I would copy her vocal, you know, the way that she uses her
Yeah.
mouth, and you know, a projection. And there's a video of me in my, like, I was like 17. There's a video of me, and I'm almost sounding a bit like her because I'm trying to sound like her,
Yeah.
because I was so influenced by that. But you can't, you know, that person's already there.
Yeah.
That band's already there. You know, you can't try and copy someone else, because you're not that person.
No, you can only be as good as you can be. You can't be
Yeah,
someone else.
yeah, and I think you've got to play to your strengths as well. I was trying to sort of be this big belty rock singer because that's what I was under the impression people wanted, but also um, I was encouraged
Yeah.
to you know, sing higher and sing this and that and the other and power and all that. And my voice is actually more suited to the stuff that I'm going to come out with. So hopefully people are going to like that. Not everybody is, but you know, that's why music is so, you know, subjective.
Yeah, I mean, music is what it is, mate. There'll be people out there that love it. There will be people out there that won't, and there'll be people who are completely ignorant to it altogether. It's just the way it goes
Yeah,
with any art. It's just the way it is. But if you're creating, you know, more so what you're akin with, what you should be writing from here, then that's just gonna,
yeah,
you know what I mean, man?
yeah. I think, well, the songs are, I realized this the other day. I've gone from writing about hiding behind the mask and writing about the persona and making things up and fiction and Hunter. It's all just made up.
Yeah,
It's not real. It's just, you know, I've come up with a line. I've gone, I'll write a song around that. To picking real life events and real emotions and delving deeper into a vulnerability that I did not like showing.
yeah,
So some of these songs are so emotional and real that I would have never done that 5 years ago, because I didn't want to show that side of me. I didn't want to let people know that I was vulnerable and not this, you know, leather clad rock chick that can hold her own and don't mess with me, you know. Do you know what I mean? I
yeah,
didn't want to show that side of me. Um, so, and I've sort of, it's not that I've leaned into that, it's just real.
yeah. It's
It's
what it
just
is.
real life.
You were at the time,
Yeah.
you know, and there is a strength in showing vulnerability because you're not scared by it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that's why when we all do it, you know, I've put my hands up, I've done it, you know, we've all done it in terms of when you've not been feeling right, whether it be physically, mentally, whatever, and you don't want to show that you are feeling anything. It's like the protection thing of animals, you know, you don't show off your weakness to the herd, so to speak, you know,
Yeah.
thing. But and when you're
Yeah.
not scared of it anymore, you're open about it because you're in control of it rather than it being in control of you at that point, I always feel.
Mm. I think I started to slowly climb out of it when I started to talk to people about it.
Mm.
So I probably had maybe 18 months, maybe a bit more of I'm not talking about it. I'm not happy. I'm this and that, you know, all the feelings that you can feel, to realizing that the people that I felt most comfortable around were the people that I'd allowed to know that I wasn't
Mm.
feeling right. And also I had some people leave my life because I've not been in the best place, you know, and well, they're not meant to be there then, are they? And
No.
that's another thing that you find out when you fall, you find out who your friends are.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there's been like a number of eye-opening situations over the past couple of years.
Uh,
Um,
Definitely do. I've been there myself. So yeah,
mm.
I'm picking up exactly what you're putting down there, my friend. Obviously, like I said, we spoke about Monster in the Magnet, Monster in the Mirror, Monster in the Magnet. Where the fuck did that come from? There, Monster in the Mirror. But where did Gasoline come from in terms of where were you headspace wise when you were writing Gasoline?
Gasoline, I was going to burn it all down, baby. Let's destroy my life. It was kind of written after I'd done everything within my power to mess it up. Yeah, it was written I want to say last July or August.
Okay.
So I'd sort of just been on a spiral for some time.
Mm.
And it was just, I suppose, a reflection on that. But I was back in the studio. By the time I even wrote that, I hadn't even started writing that song until I'd gone back into the studio, started working with music again, you know.
Yeah.
So I was actually sat outside in the sun, glorious sunshine, and I had my guitar and my notepad, and it just came out. And then within a very, very short space of time, I demoed the track and gone in because I'd already booked to go in, but I wasn't planning on doing that song
Okay.
initially because it was literally within like probably a 2 to 3 week turnaround. The song was arranged, done,
Oh,
you
nice.
know, and recorded. So, I wasn't expecting that. But the second half of the song is sort of about climbing back up. It's getting back up. It ain't over until I say it is. You know, it's you are the only person who determines whether or not you get back up and start again, basically.
Yeah.
And so this is like the second song in the trilogy that I'm putting out. So the next one coming out is called Good Enough. And that one again is like a reflection
Mm.
on everything really. And there's sort of a hopefulness that comes from that song. So yeah, I'm excited to get them out. I'm also terrified, but you know, you can't you've just got to feel the fear and do it anyway. If anybody knows that book, saved
Yeah.
my life.
It's a good read. I read it recently myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Very good read. I recommend it to anyone who's a bit lost. Um, but with that, so I take it you're releasing this as kind of an EP with you talking about the sort of trio songs there on this one.
Yeah, so it will go out as an EP. There's no release date at the moment. I just sort of said I'm not rushing any of this, and
No.
I'm not putting pressure on it. I'll do what I can to plug it, but I also think because the sound's changed, I kind of need a little bit more music out there before I'll probably go, right, how do I really try and push this now? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's nothing for people to listen to other than the sort of the old sound.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just sort of finding our way a little bit.
Step by step, mate. Still here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're looking at more like building up a few more songs in the catalog, so that when you do go out, I'm thinking in terms of live shows here, that when you go out and do live, it would be a Caroline set. It wouldn't be a
Yeah.
Caroline stroke Bastette set.
Yeah, well, it's not even. I've got enough songs to do a set of the new stuff. I might throw in, something like Sunglass or Fault Line, because some of the sounds that I'm going to come out with, it's more what I was doing before I got influenced by everything around me.
Yeah.
So when I started off and I was enjoying music and messing around with sounds, it was like Fault Line, Sunglass, Trainwreck. I was using different genres and different styles and creating this sound that I like. Now, I also think that there is, you do have to think about why people like certain songs. You can go into the analyzing side of it and see why songs do better than others. But as a creator, you've got to do both. You've got to do both. You've got to like it, because if you don't like it, it won't. It'll show. It'll show. It shows. And I think music's got to come from. It's got to come from the heart. You've got to feel it. I feel like a lot of modern music now, there's no soul to it.
Soulless, a lot of it. There's some
Yeah.
lights in the darkness, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, me and Jonathan talk about this. Even like you go back to sort of realistically not that long ago, but like even the pop was good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you just turn it in, and it could be anyone, with the exception of a few shining lights, like say Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Beyonce, stuff like that.
Yeah.
With the exception of a few guiding lights, it's just soulless, a lot of it. And I'm finding it. Okay, I'm probably going to get struck down by lightning for saying this. I'm finding it even starting to creep into not all bands. There's a lot of bands I love, but some of the rock bands in the rising scene. They're just, yeah, I'm just not a lot of them. There's a lot of them I absolutely adore, and the ones I won't, you won't hear on this radio show. So it's fine. But I'm finding some of them are just going through the motions, doing what is expected. It's some started off with false promises and some followed a herd. And to me, I mean, I've got quite an eclectic music taste like yourself. Yes, I like my heavier side things. Equally, I would happily sit there and listen to Jeff Buckley all day, or wherever. But with my parents in my household, my dad loved rock and blues. My mum loved blooming Motown and soul, and they met in the middle somehow on Pet Shop Boys, and I'm not even sure how that happened. That was my household, and music was music. But yeah, I think like you say, is you want it with soul, and when you're writing from the heart, that's where the soul comes from. And when you're not writing it, I think that's the problem with modern pop music. A lot of them aren't involved in writing it, and I think the moment you're writing, telling someone else's story and playing someone else's tunes, then you've got no connection to it. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll just have to see what people think of these songs.
I'm sure they'll love them, mate. I mean, Gasoline and Monster in the Mirror seem to be going down very well from what I'm seeing online, mate. So, you're getting good responses and everything. So
yeah, it's doing all right. It's doing all right. It's like I said, there is a bit of a mix going to come through.
Yeah.
And the I would say that the heavy, the people who are really into rock, I'm seeing them disappear. But with that, you'll gain someone else, won't you?
Yeah, this is it. Like, what you're not going to get with one, you get with the other. It's simple as that.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you're going down a more, and I don't know what sort of stylistically this stuff's going, for the ones you haven't released, obviously. But if you end up going down from argument's sake a more poppy aspect, then you'll bring in some more poppy fans. It's just finding them.
Yeah, I think when I was doing the stuff with Bastette, though, I was just going. I've actually got a song, and it's quite. I quite like it, but it is so heavy. It never got released, but it's so heavy. And then I look at what I'm coming out with now, and I'm going, "What was that?" Do you know what I mean?
That's what I always liked about people like let's say Chris Cornell, for example. Every single one of his solo albums was what I would call a proper solo album. It was a
Yeah,
complete departure from what he did. His first one was very, I mean, he always said with his first solo album, he tried to recreate Jeff Buckley's Grace, you know, it was a very singer-songwriter kind
yeah,
of album. Then, you know, the Scream album, which got slated, but I really liked it because it had all this kind of Hispanic kind of tones to it and
yeah,
hip hop beats and stuff like that. And there was people just going, "You're Chris Cornell. What are you doing? You're
yeah,
in
yeah,
Soundgarden. You're an audio slave. What on earth are you doing writing this?"
yeah,
Just like, because I wanted to make a Hispanic electronic album.
yeah,
Why not?
yeah. I think musicians, you do have to. Well, not everyone. I'm not saying everyone because I know some bands. I know what I'm going to get on the tin,
Yeah,
and every album is not. I'm not going to say the same, but I am not shocked when I listen to it, if
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah,
And some of them, I think, like, wow, that's really really good. I'm talking about rock music more than
yeah.
it. I think, wow, that's really really good rock music. But then some I'll go, I'm bored.
Yeah.
Like there's I'm not gonna say who I'm thinking of, but there's this person that I really, really, really liked when I was younger.
Mhm.
And now every album that they come out with for like the past maybe 3 albums, I'm like, it's just the same thing. It's the same thing. Give me something else. Um
I am going to make you say that who it is once I've stopped hitting record, by the way, because I'm intrigued.
but yeah, so but then at the same time, I've heard some people and maybe it's just taste. It is personal taste as
Yeah.
well, and personal preference. So like there's this girl called Donna Missile came out with this album. Absolutely, I was obsessed with it in lockdown. It was kind of like a country acoustic-y album.
Okay.
But she has like a bit of fire in her as well, and she's got this big belty voice. Like she kind of does blues stuff as well. Absolutely amazing. Reminds me a bit like cross between Shania and Beth Hart. That kind
Okay.
of
Cool. Yeah.
right. But then she came out with like really trippy, really soft singy voice, like a bit like Billie Eilish voice,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and started doing all these modern sounds. And I just went, I hate it. Even though I don't necessarily hate all of that type of music, I just was like, why can't you give me another album like that? Because that album was like, to me, a
Yeah.
10 out of 10. And she just went so far away from it that I was like, I'm confused. Why are you not doing that? Because that was so good. So this is what you've got when you've got like fans looking at the artist and the band, and you're going, they might be going, well, why are you doing that? Because what you were doing before was really good. But to the songwriter, you're going, oh well, I'm experimenting.
Yeah.
But that sometimes it doesn't correlate. Like for me, I wouldn't. So I would have bought her album. In fact, it was like my number one played album as well.
All right. Okay.
And like I was obsessed with it. And then she comes out with some other stuff, and I'm like, turn it off, turn it off. It was that different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I personally don't think that the sound that I'm doing right now is that different, because it's still me. I'm not trying to, I've not gone and started rapping or singing massively different. I might not be belting in the same way. There's still a bit, like the fire at the end. But I still think that you can tell it's me.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? You're not going, what the hell's that? It's somebody else. Just, you can still tell that it's me that's written the songs.
I thought so. I mean, when I heard Monster in the Mirror, I was saying earlier, you know, like, because, I mean, you're always really open about your influences and how vast they were. And anybody who, like you say, who listened to earlier EPs will have seen that.
Yeah,
And they just seemed it was like you just taken away the bits out of the latter side of Bastette that wasn't really you. And then you'd boil down everything down to its essence. So, I mean, your vocal on Monster in the Mirror, because it's very piano driven, was so soulful and so high up there. that it was really prevalent. I thought it was a really, really cool vocal take on it. Because I think you were talking about vulnerability earlier in terms of emotionally sense, but physically doing a song like that is vulnerable because it is just
Yeah,
piano for the most part, isn't it? Um, and it's a really, it's not the stereotypical choice a lot of people would have thought for a first single because one, it's not this. It's I know you're making completely different music now, but it's
yeah,
so different stylistically that it really kicked a punch for me. But equally on that, I could hear all the influences that we've spoken about before on the show with
yeah,
just by you being you and not having to mask it up. Um,
yeah,
so I think anyone who's seen you previously with Bastette, I don't think they're going to be. I don't. I don't think they really got Bastette if they don't get this. If they don't at least see where you're coming from, they might
yeah,
have a different opinion on it, and they might not vibe with them as much as the Bastette stuff did necessarily. But we all knew who your influences were. You
yeah.
never tried to hide those.
No,
You mentioned Cher earlier. We spoke about Cher before on previous when we've previously spoken other interviews, um, for example. But to me, you could always see where you were coming from. It was just where you were going to. Um,
yeah,
and I think for me personally, I'm just really excited to hear this next bit of the journey, mate, and see where the next songs come from. Mate.
yeah. I'm excited to get them out.
Nice to see you buzzing again.
Yeah. Well, it's been about time, really.
We like you say, sometimes you got to step away and reassess things for a little bit, and we don't
Yeah,
really want to go for it.
I think the gigging side of it as well can be a bit exhausting,
Hmm,
if you know what I mean. You've got to, I think sometimes, like they say, like a busy fool.
hmm,
You can do loads of gigs, but are the, how much money are you spending doing that kind of thing?
yeah,
And has it all been planned out? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
There was just an element of, okay, another gig, another weekend. Okay, has anything happened? You're just doing the same thing and
Spinning
getting
on a hamster wheel, and
yeah, yeah. But I think also just sort of getting back to music again. That was what I needed to do. I just needed to get back to music. And sometimes you have to step away from whatever situation you're in to find the answers,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
yeah. When you're consumed by it, you can't see the way out because
Yeah.
you're stuck in the middle, so to speak. But
Yeah. So that's kind of some of the songs that are coming out are kind of about that. Like I've got a song called Backroads. Um, if life's about the journey, I'm driving the back roads for the view,
uh,
and that was me. You know, I was so focused on goals that I wasn't enjoying life.
yeah,
It's just like, what's my next goal? Why haven't I hit it yet? Why haven't I done that? Do you know what I mean?
mhm,
Next, and when you're constantly doing that, you're just focusing on the goal and not the little things along the way,
yeah,
if you get me.
yeah, absolutely, mate. So, what's the rest of you holding out for you though? What are you looking to do? Is it just these three songs for the year?
No, there'll be more than that. I'm thinking I'm probably hoping to get 5 or 6 songs out by the end of the year.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
Um, and then because of the way that sort of I'll call it the industry, it's Spotify, it's online. Because of the way that it all works now, they're wanting like albums aren't really a thing.
No,
I know that you put it together as an album, but they want once every 6 to 8 weeks, you
yeah,
know. So it was just we're just sort of trying to get back in it slowly. And I will probably be looking into do a few gigs and plan a bit of a tour, but that's not really my focus right now. Me and Rob are getting together and looking at the tracks and looking at the way that we're going to put it all together.
oh, cool.
But I'm not putting any sort of time limit on it just yet. But I love doing that anyway. I love just being rehearsing and being with musicians.
That art of creating, mate.
Yeah, yeah. Which I don't know. Again, I stepped away from that. I just stepped away from everything to do with it. So it's nice to just sort of be back around that kind of thing again.
Nice one, mate. Well, thanks for your time, Caroline, mate. It's been great to catch up with you, mate. Really has.
You too. Thank you very much for having me.
Any time for you, mate. You know that. Really happy to see you. Great to see you back and buzzing, mate. So no, it was good. So it's good. Thanks for your time. Obviously, you've got 2 new singles, so we're going to bookend the interview with Gasoline and Monster in the Mirror. Play both of those. But what other song of yours would you like us to play on the show? Appreciate it's probably a bit tricky considering what we've just been talking about. But...
yeah, that is a bit tricky. You could go. In fact, one of my favourite Bastette songs is actually Sunglass.
Yeah, we'll go with that then. We'll lock that.
Yeah, that's one where it's emotional as well.
It is an emotional song, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll lock that in. So thanks for your time, mate. Appreciate it.